I didn't hear the door open. I didn't even know someone was in my house, not until I turned around and saw him. Tyler, my neighbor's son, stood silently in the middle of my kitchen. 20 years old, eyes unreadable. He hadn't called, hadn't knocked. He just came in. I was drying my hands with a dish towel, completely stunned. My heart pounded, not out of fear but from something I couldn't explain. I asked if he was okay. No answer, just a stare. A look that said he had been carrying something too heavy for too long. And today, he decided to drop it right here. Then he spoke, and what he said changed everything. Before we continue, I want to pause and thank every single one of you. To all the new subscribers, and especially those who return video after video but haven't yet subscribed. Your support means everything to this channel. If you connect with emotionally raw and honest storytelling, please hit the subscribe button right now. And don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Now, let's go deeper into the story. My name is Vanessa. I live in a quiet little town in Maine, a place where everything looks perfect. But inside, many of us are quietly falling apart. I've been married to Mark for 16 years. On the surface, we look like the dream couple.
Stable jobs.
Cozy home, no public drama. But behind closed doors, we've become strangers. For nearly 5 years, we've lived together without touch, without true connection. We speak of bills, schedules, grocery lists, but never about us. Across the street lives Linda, my dear neighbor. Her son, Tyler, used to mow our lawn during his high school summers. Back then, he was just a boy with earbuds and comic tees.
But when he came home from college a few months ago, wasn't a boy anymore.
Taller, deeper voice. But what struck me the most was the sadness behind his eyes, a silence that felt familiar. At first, our conversations were casual by the mailbox in the driveway. He'd help me with groceries, change a light bulb, stay for a soda. But gradually, I noticed the way he looked at me, like he saw something in me that my own husband had long stopped noticing. It was a Tuesday. Mark was away on a business trip. I had just finished baking banana bread and was cleaning up. When I turned around, and there was Tyler. I asked if he was okay. He didn't respond right away. Then finally, I didn't know who else would listen. I should have asked him to leave. I should have set a boundary. But instead, I stepped aside and let him in. We sat at the table. A silence weighed between us. Then he looked into my eyes and asked, "Vanessa, do you ever feel invisible?" The question hit a part of me I'd hidden for years. And before I could even reply, his fingers grazed mine. A small gesture, yet it shook something deep inside. Then he whispered, "You're the only one who makes me feel seen." It wasn't seduction. It was truth. The same truth I had once whispered to my own reflection. When Mark forgot our anniversary for the 3rd year in a row, I pulled my hand away, tried to deflect with a laugh, told him he needed rest, but he didn't move. His voice cracked slightly as he added, "I just needed someone who wouldn't see me as broken." I stood. I needed space. Turned on the faucet just to drown out my heartbeat. Then I felt him behind me to close. I'm not trying to cross a line. I just needed to say it. I turned around slowly. His eyes weren't filled with lust. They were full of something more dangerous, longing. Some moments feel like choices, but they're really traps. I whispered his name, Tyler. Meant it as a warning, but it sounded more like surrender. He stepped back, guilt washing over his face.
I shouldn't have come.
"I'm sorry." Then he was gone, leaving the kitchen and my soul in silence. Nothing had happened, but something almost did. And that was enough to change everything. That night, I went to bed early, but I couldn't sleep. His words, his gaze, the way I hadn't felt seen in years. 3 days later, Mark came home early from his trip. A surprise. I was making tea when the doorbell rang, and there stood Tyler. Again, but this time Mark was right behind him. Mark's eyes narrowed. "Why is he here?" I froze. Couldn't find the words. Not because I had something to hide, but because I suddenly realized I didn't know how to explain it. Mark looked between us, then back at me. "I asked you something." Tyler looked down. I looked away. and silence became our confession. I wanted to lie, to say Tyler was dropping something off, but I couldn't. Mark turned to him. "You need to leave." Tyler nodded quietly. "Yes, sir," and left without a glance back. The door shut. Mark stood still. Then, in a voice that shattered the floor beneath me, he asked, "How long has this been happening?" I stepped forward. "Nothing happened, I swear." He laughed. But it wasn't laughter. It was grief wrapped in disbelief. "Nothing. You expect me to believe that?" And I realized, even if nothing physical had happened, something real had. The days that followed were filled with silence, tension, quiet meals, and avoided glances. 2 weeks later, Linda knocked on my door, her face pale, her hands shaking. She had found Tyler's journal. She read me a paragraph. It spoke of a woman across the street, a woman whose sadness matched his own, a woman who made him feel alive. Linda didn't cry. She just looked at me with betrayal in her eyes. "You were like family," she said. And then she was gone. Mark started sleeping in the guest room. Not because I cheated, but because I almost did. And that was enough to break what little remained. 3 months later, he moved out. No yelling. No final fight. Just distance. Tyler went back to college. I never saw him again, but sometimes I still hear his voice. "You're the only one who makes me feel real." And I wonder, what if I had just locked the door? What if I hadn't let my loneliness speak? Some betrayals aren't physical. They live in words, looks, silence, and they leave scars just the same. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe emotional betrayal is worse than physical? Was Vanessa a victim of neglect, or did she cross a line? Let me know in the comments. I read everyone. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support gives these stories a voice and keeps this channel alive. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.